Hey, it's Maryanne. Welcome to another episode of The Influential Nonprofit. Today, we're going to talk about something that's even better than influence. And honey, I did not know that this could be a thing because, as you know, I coach and train my company, Courageous Communication. I coach and train nonprofit leaders to master the art of influence so they can enroll people in a vision so you can ask for and receive what you want. What I realized through 30 years of nonprofit work is that this skill is so fundamental to really getting anything done. Now, I'm my experience is in marketing, right? That's where my background is. That's what I spent a lot of my time marketing, messaging. But marketing is about how you see yourself and how you want the world to see you. And that has a lot to do with how we think and feel about ourselves. And what I learned is that marketing and fundraising and really anything else is an inside out game. We want to feel more confident. We want to feel excited, and we want to communicate that. That is the fundamental thing because I would look at projects that I worked on, and this was good creative work. Okay. I work with some amazing people, good creative work, and I would think, why does this client really take to it? And why does this client not take to it? And mostly it was because that client understood influence. Probably naturally and intuitively. It wasn't something anybody coached them or taught them how to do. It's something they could do very intuitively. They just knew how to enroll people in a vision. Because listen, any of your marketing, any of your fundraising, nothing's going to work if you don't have the ability to move people to action and in a way that feels good, that they want to do it. In influence, we say, when I'm of value to you, you'll be of value to me. So my only job is to give value. And that is what I have been doing since I started my company in 2018. But recently, I had a session with one of my coaches, Dr. Aaron. Every maybe 6 months, I take a quick trip to Denver and I go see Dr. Aaron. And it's the coolest and most wooiest thing I do. Anyway, part of the conversation that we had was about manipulation, which and influence, and then inspiration. And I'm going to share with you why my word for the year is inspiration and why I think it's even better than influence and why I think this is so important, especially in the climate that we're in right now, where everything is changing. And I'm recording this at the end of January. I'm not sure when you're hearing it, but this is some crazy times. I don't think I felt this turbulent since March of 2020. So let's first talk about what manipulation, the difference between manipulation, influence, and inspiration is. Here's manipulation. That means I'm going to do what's good for me. I don't really care what happens to you. Whatever happens to you is okay. And a lot of times in sales, we feel very manipulated. Somebody's going to sell us something, which means it's going to be an advantage to them to make the money, and it's going to be a disadvantage to us because maybe we did or didn't want that item. Manipulation means I don't care what happens to, I just care about what happens to me. I don't care if it's a good deal for you or not. Sometimes in fundraising, that can manipulation, it can feel really manipulative. Like, I'm making friends with you just because I know you have money. That's disingenuous at best, manipulative at worst. That's not what we want to do. That's why sales and fundraising, and anytime you're trying to get somebody to do something, what volunteering, joining the board, whatever, can feel icky because it's feeling manipulative because you're not sure it benefits them. Now we have influence. Influence means when I'm of value to you, you'll be of value to me. And so in influence, I am only concerned with giving. And I'm not saying like giving like a doormat. Right now I'm saying like giving, being codependent. I'm saying when I'm of value, all I need to do is all I need to be is of value to others. That's the key to influence, right? All I need to be is of value to others. That is the tenet of influence because in influence we all win. And a lot of times I talk about moving beyond the polarity to the secret option C. Like, how? how can we all win? In manipulation, there's a winner and there's a loser. In influence, everybody wins. Everybody around the table wins. And that's why I love influence and I love coaching and training people to master this art because everyone gets their needs met. Everybody gets to win. And it is possible to make people win. And if you follow me at all, you know there's tons and tons and tons of content about this and different stories and case studies and things about the art of influence. And in fact, I thought influence is so powerful that I made it the focus of my work because I knew if I could teach you how to master the art of influence, you could fundraise better, you could market better. Because instead of saying, oh, I want this marketing to make me feel more confident, or I need a script to make me more confident, I'm coming with confidence. I'm coming with value. I don't really need to worry if you're going to say yes or no. All I need to do is be of value to you because I know eventually that will come back to me. Now, I could talk about the benefits of influence for a long time, but like I said, I have tons and tons of content about that. We're not going to spend too much time. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I want to get to the third thing, which is inspiration. What is inspiration? Inspiration means I am just going to be of value. In influence, I make the assumption that if I give value, I will receive value. And I'm not sure when or how, but I know it'll happen. And in general, I believe that's true. It also can feel a little transactional. In inspiration, I'm just the model for what I seek. And I want to explain why this is so important to me and so important to me right now. I'm going to share a little story that I shared when I was in this session with Dr. Aaron. Um, I'm always talking about the little bars I go to. And one of the little bars I go to, um, this is my Friday evening, like my Friday kind of happy hour spot. And there is, okay, so if you don't know me, I have three kids. They're all African American. My husband and I are white, they're adopted, and my oldest is trans. And she came out like 2018. I could tell you a lot about that because like when she came out, it was literally no big deal and nobody really cared. And now it's like everyone's up in arm about the trans community. So I'm sitting there and the guy next to me starts talking about trans people. And now I have a couple of choices here, right? Um, I can argue with him. I can try to get him to see my side, things like that. But I really take a different approach with things like this. And he was listening and, I was listening. I'm like, wow, so this seems to be like a really big problem for you. All I'm doing is validating, validating, validating. And at the end, I didn't, and he does not know my kids or anything. And at the end, I said, wow, that's really interesting because my oldest is trans. So it's really interesting to get your perspective on that. And I stopped. I didn't do anything else. I stopped because I am the inspiration. I am I am the model for the change that I seek. And in that moment, I knew I couldn't change his mind. I couldn't make him see any differently. But I said, wow, that's really interesting. I have a trans child. And it's really interesting to hear your perspective on that. There was no judgment in it. And now, can you bet? Oh, believe his next words were, I didn't know, blah, blah, blah. Now he's suddenly backpedaling, which he can do. That's his prerogative. I'm like, okay, thanks. I'm going to hold myself sovereign. You know, if you think about inspiration, it's like being a reed in the water. I am rooted firmly, but I can sway and move, but my foundation is secure. Um, Let me give you another example of what it's like to be an inspiration. Many years ago, when before my bitter sports divorce with the St. Louis Rams, which I have healed from, took a while, but this was a family activity for us. Every Sunday, all three kids, we would tailgate. It was really this, I mean, it was the activity our family life revolved around was going to the football games, preparing for the games, being at the games, watching the games. It was our thing. And when we during like the greatest show on turf years, now I'm going back so far, but this is what happened. 1999, 2000, I met this two other couples who were a little bit older than my husband and I. They're like 15 years older than us, and we became friends and we started to tailgate together. And what I like about sports is sort of the unifying aspect of sports, which is, all of us can get together and doesn't matter our income, our age, our race, we're all devoted to this one thing. So we became really good friends. Well, they were a lot more conservative than us in a sense of maybe it was generationally, I don't know, but they really, um, and at the time, gay marriage was the thing, right? All the gay marriage was the thing. And I never challenged them on that. I didn't talk about that. But all my friends that I tailgated with that I brought to a tailgate were gay. And one of my best friends who would tailgate regularly, and she dressed up in this crazy outfit, she married a woman and they came to tailgate over time, because of my proximity and introducing them, they started to change what they thought. And it wasn't because of what I said, it was because of what I did. Okay. I didn't, of course, I told them, "Wow, man, that's disappointing to hear," but I didn't challenge them. And I think a lot of times we feel like we need to challenge people and they have to agree with us in order for us to be with them. And I do agree that sometimes it is best not to have a relationship with somebody. And I'm not saying to lower your standards or tolerate something you're not comfortable with, but I'm saying that sometimes I realized that a lot of times in my life, the role that I fulfill is one of inspiration. I become sort of a translator. As a white person with black kids and I'm in white spaces, I often will translate or explain part of the black experience that it may be hard for people to want to hear or understand. But the biggest thing though is that in inspiration, changing your mind is not the goal. Because anytime I try to change someone, first of all, I'm loving them for who they are, not who I are, or for who I want them to be, not who they are, right? That's conditional love. You have to think like this if you're going to be with me. Secondly, though, in inspiration, I'm not I'm not tied to the result. I don't need you to have to see something my way. And when I talked about my tailgate friends over time, they really started to shift their thinking around things. But that was because of not what I said or an argument that we had or some sort of ultimatum I gave them. That's just because they met all my friends and realized this was really no big deal. It is a time right now where things are very, very divisive. And I've decided that for 2025, I am claiming the word inspiration. Um, and I want to share with you one, two, three, four, five ways that you can be an inspiration and why you might consider adopting this practice. First of all, manipulation and influence sometimes can create resentment. And because so many times influence can slip into manipulation without us even knowing it because we're too tied to the result. So, I'm going to share something with you because we're best friends that I started to get resentful of my business. I felt like I was giving a lot and not getting a lot back for it. But in my heart, I know that in influence, right? When I'm a value to you, you'll be a value to me. And also that was conditional. Did you hear that? Because I'm a value to you, you'll be a value to me. That's transactional. I'm doing it so I can get something back for it. When I feel like that, that's drifting into manipulation. Even though it's the best of intentions, I'm drifting into manipulation. Right? It's just the subtlest of shifts, but it's like, well, I'm doing this. I got to do this because I really want to enroll people in my class. And if I don't do it, I won't get people to enroll in my course. Okay. Now, even though enrolling in my course is amazing and you should all totally do it, I'm doing it to get something out of it instead of doing it for the love of it. Now, I want to make this very clear. It's okay to do things and because I want to get something out of it. It's the intention behind it. Because if I'm doing it because I feel like I have to do it, or I'm doing it because I love to do it, and I love that it makes people happy. That is, that is then the true influence. And then in inspiration, I love it and I'm doing it whether it makes you happy or not, right? I'm just doing it for the love of it. I liken this to, I'm the cook in the house, and I've had a long, complicated relationship with cooking. Okay. I hated it. I tolerated it. Then I got to like it. And then I realized you could just make crap up and you didn't have to follow a recipe. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And so now I'm just like this free-willing wild cook. And I've actually become pretty good at it. And so sometimes on the weekends, I will make something for my husband. So the other day I made pierogi. Now I'm Polish, of descent of Polish, and pierogi was a treat my mother made. Sauerkraut ones. I made sauerkraut and I made potato. And yes, I hope you understand they were so. They are in fact a labor of love. It's a time. It's not hard. It's just time intensive. But I did it because I wanted to do it because I really like them and my husband really likes them and he was just so excited for the treat. He kept circling the kitchen. Okay, so I'm doing it because I love it and because I know he'll love it. And that's influence. And that's also a bit of inspiration. But in inspiration, I'm just going to do it because I love to do it. And it makes me happy. And so in my business, I had to rethink like, wait, I'm doing all of this because I have to do it, because I feel like I need to do it to enroll people. But I'm doing this because I love to do it. And it really, truly fills me with joy. That's the energy of choice. That's the inspiration. If you love to help people, help people. Because if it's coming from play, it truly makes me happy. If I'm helping people because I want something from them, that's manipulation, right? If I'm helping people because I know one day they'll probably help me, that's influence. That's cool. But if I'm just helping people because it makes me happy, that's and I truly gives me joy, that's inspiration. Because I don't really have to be concerned about how other people are receiving it. Right? I'm just going to be who I am and my authentic self, and you can take it or not. That is such a more powerful statement than trying to convince somebody. Okay, so first of all, so number one is inspiration releases resentment. So if you're feeling resentful because you feel like you're putting something in and you're not getting a lot out, right? Let's shift our thinking and like, you know what? Maybe I am too tied to the results. Let's pull back from that a little and focus on the inspiration and being the model for the change that I seek. The second is release the need to change the people around you. This could be the most freeing thing you've ever done, especially in this climate. And there's a couple reasons for this. First of all, it's super draining. Second of all, 99% of the time you're going to be wholly unsuccessful. And third, when you try to change somebody, you're saying, and I'm going to be a little bold when I say this, it's easy for us to get distracted. If that person felt like this, then my life would be better. And now we're blaming each other for problems when we should be, we're looking side to side at each other while of the struggles we're having instead of looking up at the systems and the structures that are designed to keep us down. Right? The patriarchal capitalistic structures of our society, which we are coming into question, which is why there's so much pushback to keep us down. So as long as we're looking at each other, the people in charge can keep doing what they're doing because we're not looking at the right thing. By not trying to change people because they're really not the problem, right? That that I don't want to say that. I want to say that. Let me go back. That when we're making them the problem or they're making us the problem, we're ignoring what the real problem is. And as long as there's division and as long as we're pointing fingers at each other, that's why social media can be so difficult because it breeds it breeds manipulation. It breeds I have to get you to see my way. It breeds the division and it keeps us divided. When united, we could be such a powerful force, and that scares people. This is my take, okay? Take it or leave it, it's up to you, but I'm just telling you that when you try to change anyone, personally, it's draining, it's totally unsuccessful, and it feeds into the divisiveness that I think is causing some of the political unrest that's part of our society right now. let me give you another for instance. When I first started my business, I had a mentor who was very, very different than me. Like you could not you could not find one thing we agreed on. Where he went left, I went, or like he was mostly right. But then when he went left, I went right. Like what is this crazy thing? Like there was not one issue we agreed on, but we got along really, really well. And one of the agreements that we made is that I'm happy to listen to you talk about how you don't think climate change is real. But if you're trying to change my mind, the conversation stops. Okay. Because and part of this is because I also want to understand how other people think. When I told you the story about the guy in the bar talking about trans people, part of me was wanting to listen to see how are people thinking because I really want to understand that so that I understand what I'm working with, right? And so when he would talk about climate change, and I'd be like, okay, whoa, whoa, this feels like you're trying to convince me. I'm going to pause this, right? So I'm happy to listen to you about anything, or you can listen to me. But you know, once I feel like somebody's trying to change me or change my mind or convince me of something, pause. Just pause. Because the more we push on somebody, the more they're going to push back. And then we're going to start operating, from our fight or flight, from our lizard instinct brain. And we're going to feel our chest, our heartbeat, our sweat, or whatever. And once we do that, okay. I was out with my friend and we go out, we talk about our kids, and he has an adopted kid, and he was talking about the TikTok ban. He's like, I'm glad they banned it because it's teaching our kids, bad things. And I was like, well, what are they teaching them? And he said, really bad things. And I'm like, well, are you on TikTok? No, I don't like it. I don't do it. Okay, so what? I'm just interested to know, like, what bad things. And he's like, I don't know, I just think they're bad things. And his arms are folding and his legs are folding, and I could see his countenance get defensive. And I'm like, we're going to stop this. And I could see myself getting defensive because I flipping love me some TikTok. Um, and but I paused because we were getting into dangerous territory where I wanted him to see the value of TikTok. And that just, first of all, who cares? And second of all, it wasn't going to happen. So stop trying to change people's minds. When you're the inspiration, I'm just the model for what I want to be. And I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to put out what I want, and you can receive it or not. Remember, the more I allow people to choose, the more likely they are to choose what I want. That is one of the basic tenets of influence, right? So I can take that a little bit even farther, and it's like I'm just going to, put it out there, and you can choose for yourself what's important to you. I'm going to be here being me. Okay. Now, the third thing, as I've kind of already rolled into this a little bit, is when we're inspirational, our happiness is not based on others' approval of us. Now, you can do your own personal inventory of what is in you that you need the most from others. That could be, if you like to save people, there's always going to be somebody to save. If you like to help people, there's always going to be somebody to help. I like to impress people. I like to be impressive. Um, we can go and unpack my years of this, why this happened to me, but yes, I like to impress people. And my dog is scratching himself right now behind me. Buns bit. Hey, Buns. So, um, I will always try to impress people. Like if it's a costume party, I'm going to have the very best costume, or I'm just not going. I'm not going to the party. I want to be impressive. And this is just something within me. It's an ego need with me, and it's okay to have an ego, and it's okay to have these things. This isn't judgment about it. I'm certainly not judging me. I'm just understanding that it's important for me to seem impressive to people. And so I the manipulation side of this is I'm going to do this. I'm going to like do this for you because I want you to be impressed. I'm going to do this because I want you to choose to be impressed for me. That would be the influence. In the inspiration, I'm just going to be me. And if you're impressed by it, great. If not, that's okay too. I love to help people, and I'm going to help people because it makes me feel good. And, and as long as we're doing it not for the approval of others, just the approval of ourselves. Because that's where true joy comes from. True joy is not conditional on how other people receive you. And that's truly how we live our most aligned, authentic lives. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is not participating in divisiveness. And I think this may be a tough one. Now, this is not an or, this is not a do this, not that. This is understand and think about when it is appropriate to participate and to sort of set a boundary and stand up and when it's not. There are things that we can just let go of. I had a counselor who helped me with my kids, and they said, he can throw a bomb. It doesn't have to land on you. I don't have to assume that every bomb you throw is going to land on me. Just because you're throwing down trash doesn't mean I have to pick it up. I get to choose. Remember sovereignty, and I talk about sovereignty. This is all about sovereignty. The sovereignty, what it looks like to be sovereign and inspiration. And what it looks like is I get to decide when it's important for me to to stand up for something and when it's not. It's not a compulsion. So if you're like on Twitter, X, whatever, all night long fighting with people because you don't feel like you can put your phone down, that could be a compulsion. You could just ask yourself the question, is this a compulsion? Am I really choosing this or do I feel bound by it? And by not participating in divisiveness, like that sovereignty, I'm actually allowing for my inspiration to come through. Again, there are times when I would need to set a clear boundary, set a standard, stand in something. But I don't think it's as much as people think that you need to do. I think it's okay for people to have differing opinions than you. There are times when it may be not acceptable. Like, if I've had one person in my family, not a close relative, tell me that I was ruining my child and my trans child, and what I was doing of loving my trans kid was child abuse. That person is no longer in my life. Um, and we weren't that close, so that was easy. That was a point where I said nope. But there's other times where I'm like, I get that you don't understand or you've been fed this line, and I'm just gonna let that roll. Um, and I think it really just depends on the situation and the person. And it's my choice. I'm the sovereign one. I get to decide what is important for me to go in. But I'm going to tell you, if you think about all those times you became this little keyboard warrior and you got on Facebook or whatever, and you're like, it don't make you feel good and it doesn't change anything. What happens is people just ground more deeply in the position you're in. So I just talk about my trans kid. I talk about my black kids. I talk about their life. And it's my truth, and you can agree with it or not, but it's my truth. And I'm not going to argue with you over my truth. That's just the bottom line. And that is more and more of what I feel like I'm being called into is being an inspiration. And honestly, I didn't realize I didn't have a word for it until I saw Dr. Aaron the other day. And we talked about manipulation, influence, and inspiration. And that's what I was doing when all those years ago when I was tailgating. That's what I'm doing when I sit with people and I hear what they have to say, even if it stings a little bit to hear them say that. Um, because first of all, because I know I'm not going to change their mind, but I really want to just be an inspiration for what trans life and trans people are really like. But if I argue with them, I'm never going to get that opportunity. And how much freer it is to not feel like you have to change everybody around you. Um, it is it frees up so much energy. So much energy. So I'm going to review really quickly the points I just addressed. First of all, inspiration releases resentment because I'm no longer tied to the results. I'm doing something because I truly love to do it and it brings me joy. If it brings you joy, great. If not, that's okay too. If this content moves you to want to work with me, I would love that. If not, it's okay too. I'm just glad I'm putting something of value out into the world. That's what I want. That's what I'm focused on. I'm not trying to change anybody, right? That's the second thing. Let's not change anybody. Um, you know, and number three, my happiness is not dependent on anyone else's approval, right? I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Number four, understanding the ego need inside of us, whether that's, the ego need of being seen as helpful, being seen as kind, being seen as impressive, which is mine, I mentioned, understanding the ego need that could be driving this, and driving us to do things that we don't really want to do because we want to satisfy an ego. But it's okay to do any of those things as long as it's coming from a place like of pure joy. Like I just want to impress myself. I, because that's important to me. If it's important to you, great, but that's important to me. And the last one, number five, is not participating in divisiveness unless you're truly called into it. I don't think most of the time we're really called into it. Our instinct brain fires off when we go into fight or flight and we start to keyboard warrior or fight with people. When you try to push somebody, they're going to push back, and that conversation will quickly devolve. It can be the greatest lesson to love people for who they are, even if it's not how you want them to be. Like, love them for who they are instead of who you want them to be. It's such a lesson to love people in their flawedness, in their what you think are the quote unquote wrong views, because when I love them for who they are, I'm able to really hear them. And when I'm able to really hear people and hear what they are, then I can actually address their concerns. Instead of like, if you feel like somebody has to fundamentally change to be around you, you can either accept that person for who they are and not be around them anymore. But no one has to change for you. And I don't have to change for anybody. And that's okay. We can coexist. Isn't that a beautiful thought? Isn't that a beautiful thing? So my word for the year is inspiration. I want to share something with you. This is visual. So if you're listening, you can either pop into the YouTube on my website, or you can just hear what I'm about to tell you. But I'm about to give you a show and tell. I have a long-term coaching program called the Power Influencers Power Circle. And I've had a few people in there for quite a bit. And every year we do vision boards. I have a couple behind me where we do vision boards and we share, and at the beginning of the year, we create a vision for the year. Well, this year we got the idea to do vision notebooks so that we could journal in them, and we wouldn't just put them on the wall, but we would actually use them. And so I got these 300-page hardbound notebooks for us to decorate. And every year I send, because they're all over the country, I send packages with like stickers and letters and all kinds of cool stuff and Mod Podge. And we sit together via Zoom and we put together our inspiration. There's a bunch of exercises that go before it to prep this for us. But I'm going to share mine with you because I just want you to know I'm no bullshit. It's inspiration is on my cover. This is what I want to be. Most of the time, vision boards, you talk about what you want to have or what you want to do. But my front cover is about here's what I want to be. I want to be an inspiration. I want to shine bright so I can light others up. And that's what and I have some pictures here. I have the reed in the water that I mentioned. I have some holding sparklers and light bulbs and all of these things that feel like inspiration. On the back, I put, here's what I want to do. Right. So I want to be a leader. I want to be the queen, right? Because I'm the sovereign one. I want to be a speaker. And there's some images here that go along with that. And so every day I look at this book and I journal in it. And it's like 300 pages to get us through the year, hopefully. And this was a really cool exercise to do. If you want to know more about how I did this, you can just shoot me an email and I'm happy to share more. But honestly, this was such a great exercise. If you lead a team, this would be a great thing for you guys. So you don't have to wait till the beginning of the year. You can do it, start it at any time. But and also I did not do the insides, but other folks did the inside. So you actually have like 4 panels that you could really work with. You could do the inside and the outside, and then the front and back, and then inside or outside if you wanted. But I got these on Amazon. They're about $8 each, and sent them to my clients. And and that's and that's my inspiration. So you can tell this is my focus, and every day I'm going to look for this and focus on being the inspiration and knowing that if I love what I'm doing and that I'm putting good in the world, then I'm okay. I'm not going to be okay. I already am. It's all good. And I know that's sometimes hard to connect to in turbulent times. And it's most important now for us to really connect to the goodness and the love and the light in our lives and to be that light for others. All right, here it is. And that's it for me in this episode of the influential and inspirational a nonprofit. If you want to know more about how you can be a leader of influence and inspiration, please feel free to reach out for me. My email is always in the show notes. I'm all over LinkedIn, and come find me and we'll talk. And that's it for Maryanne and this episode of the Influential Nonprofit. I will see you next time, friend.